Welcome back to the Strategy Meets Impact show hosted by myself, Phillip Noel. I'm actually super excited about our show here today because I have a very exciting guest, somebody who I've been waiting to have on for quite some time, Mr. Randy Wilson.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
Man, blessed to have you, man. I've been seeing your work all across my social media, hearing great things. We have a lot of people in common, mutually in common.
Yeah.
Really loving the work that you're doing for the city in this particular moment in history for the city. So just want to give you an opportunity to tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, man. Well, I definitely appreciate it, and the feeling is mutual. I've checked out your stuff too, and obviously we have like interest, and
True.
so there may be people out here today to think that we are brothers, bald-headed guys.
It's going to be the lights and the cameras that's going to make that. It's going to be tough to not pass those allegations. Listen, I have, and again, just for a little bit of background, right? So just tell a little bit about your show for people who aren't familiar and who will be looking to become more familiar by the time we're done. For sure.
Yeah, Randy Wilson podcast. I've been doing it now for 5 years, and you can find this podcast pretty much everywhere podcasts are played for the most part. Libsyn, Stitcher, Google, Apple, Spotify, not SoundCloud. Or you can also go to randywilsonpodcast.com. We don't do enough at promoting our own platforms. So you can go check it out there. I strongly encourage you to go to YouTube, though, because all my podcasts are also recorded, such as this. And so, 5 years, kind of beating the pavement and trying to talk to all the difference and change makers out there, making an impact in the society.
Yeah. And it's an election year, right? There is not, in my opinion, no one that has gotten in front of a majority of the mayoral candidates up for election here in the city of Richmond than you, in having candid conversations with them, detailed conversations with them. You have had the opportunity to sit down with these people and really be able to see a different side of them that maybe others don't get to see, right? Was that the intention when you went into doing this work?
Yes, it was. It was very much the intention, whether it's mayor candidates or, anyone I have on the show, from entrepreneurs to sports figures to artists. My goal is to create human moments.
Truly.
Narrate the time that we are existing in today and kind of like paint that picture so that people can go back and see the journey. Absolutely.
And it's like again, you've been in Richmond for about 20 years or so, right?
Yep, 20 years. 21.
And so I'm excited for this interview because I want to be able to finally ask the interviewer questions, right? For somebody who knows the city well, right? And is also being able to see it from the level of leadership and how they actually see the city.
Yeah.
Someone coming to visit Richmond, as you know, we were named Best City to Visit by CNN this year, right? If you were to give someone a weekend plan how they could literally enjoy the city of Richmond for a weekend, it doesn't matter the season, it's completely up to you. What would you plan for them to do?
What would I plan for them to do?
What would you plan for them to do?
And I'm different. What I may plan would be completely different than others, But obviously it's a food city, so they can pretty much take their pick based on what their food interest is. But for me, I would show them the river. I would probably take them to the bike trail.
Got you.
I'd take them because I'm really into cycling, so I would take them out as far as they want to go on that. I really enjoy the parks. Outside of Richmond and Chesterfield County, I really enjoy Pocahontas Park. So I'm very much in the outdoors space. I would try to spend as much time with that guest doing things that exert a little bit of energy. I'm not so much going to be, taking them. We could take them through Carytown and we can do all of that stuff. But me, I like to get out on feet and walk and bike. And so any of the things like that they would have interest in, I'd be all for that.
And I love that because you mentioned our parks, you mentioned our, being able to have safe roads to even bike and do these things, right? Do you feel as if the city is doing great work or good enough work to take care of those things?
Most definitely. I mean, being I have the most respect for pedestrians. I'm probably, because I'm out there. I am one. And so I really salute this current administration for the work they've done in improving our roads and highways because I frequent those roads on my bicycle.
Truly.
So we've made a lot of progress, I think, in the past 8 years with the Stoney administration when it comes to roads.
The line, for the culture, from the culture?
Yeah.
That's it, right?
For the culture, from the culture.
Give me a little bit there.
Well, I try to present, I talk to all different walks of people. You know, the one thing that I probably need to improve on is talking to more women.
Got you.
I've got feedback on that. I think my breakdown is about 65% male, 35% female is my listener base. But I've worked on that a little bit lately, you know, with the Jamie Swains, the Michelle Mosby. So I'm working on it. I just need to be more intentional there. True. But, you know, I'm an everyday person, at least in my mind. You know, I'm Black. You know, I represent Black culture, and I try to present content whether I'm talking to. It doesn't really matter the culture or race of a person, but what does matter is that I present to an audience a person in the way they choose to authentically show up. And so if they choose to show up however they choose to show up, I give them opportunity to speak and convey their message in a way that lets people know that this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and this is how I show up.
Truly.
And that's my intention and goal when I say from the culture, for the culture.
And you come.
That culture could mean whoever. It doesn't just mean it's Black. It means that whoever you are and however you choose to identify and present yourself, well, here's a person who's presented in a way that may present compatible interests for you.
And thousands of new residents in Richmond since even the COVID era, right? So the culture is, and you're
extremely diverse,
ever evolving at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Is there still what you consider like a core culture though of Richmond?
For Richmond?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say at core, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, we still a blue state.
Yeah.
I think we're a blue city. So I would say that, but there is a lot of change happening. It's hard for me to say. It's hard. It's, you know, 15 years ago, you could say it's a Black city. You can't say that anymore.
That's what I'm mentioning. So it's like, and so where do you feel is there a responsibility to still keep certain characterizations of the city constant, or certain historical aspects of the city constant, to make sure that?
Well, look, I'm not from Richmond, and again, as I shared with you before the show, my wife is a born and raised Richmonder who reminds me every day that, you know, we accept you, you married into us, but you're not from here. So you know, I'm sensitive and mindful on how I would respond to that question, because I haven't been here my whole life. But what I will say is that the city has accepted me. I love it here. Again, the things I love or may not be the things that a lot of people love. I love the natural aspect of the city.
Absolutely.
And for the foreseeable future, I probably will be here for the rest of my life.
But your perspective is so crucial, because there are so many people like yourself who, again, aren't from here but have made a home in this area, have enjoyed the benefits of the area, have seen the challenges of this area, right? And are also being a part of the impact and the development of it, as you are. You coming from a strong mental health background, right? And really being able to see how people operate, how people kind of just take on the challenges and the plights that just comes with life, right? What would you say right now it's like, when you're speaking with people, what is seeming like one of those big concerns or challenges that you feel as if there's common?
Well, I'll answer that, and I'll piggyback off the last question. Part of what kept me here is, you know, I have a mental health background, and what I learned very quickly in my career is that if you want to be a servant, this is a city that will accept you, because there's needs that need to be filled. So, you know, I'm in the healthcare field. You just go outside and look around. We have issues that need to be dealt with. So I'll pivot at. I want to make sure I answer your question correctly. Repeat it one more time.
So when you see, because you're getting to hear people, right? You're getting to actually be the listener that you are, right? Is there are there any common threads of like people?
I mean, and I think we've heard a lot of it during the recent interviews I've done with the mayor candidates too. Education, public safety. Those two things particularly, I would say, is the common.
And public safety.
Those two things are the particular things that continue. But you know what's interesting to me about that is that these are not two things that are any different than 8 years ago when Jack Berry Michelle Mosby, LeVar Stoney, and Joe Morrissey were running. So it's still the same.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's changed. If anything, I feel like we've evolved. Things have been elevated. There has been progress made,
right.
and we're just getting ready to enter a new chapter in the city's future in regard to how we take where we are forward. And I'm being very candid with you. I'm concerned about that too, because
and a lot of people are.
I'm concerned. I think that what I've learned through these interviews is that we have a lot of good people. It's similar to 2016 in the fact that nobody has ever been mayor. But I'm just concerned in regard to what the transition is going to look like.
Yeah.
But I will say I think it's great that the current mayor and administration has worked into their budget the ability to help aid a transition. And that's not something that's ever historically happened in this city's history.
Truly.
One mayor walks out, another mayor walks in, and if they're cordial, then maybe they will share and converse. But it's not like a governor administration or a presidential administration. So I'm a little concerned, and it's not so much about the candidates completely, but I'm more interested in seeing who and how they identify the right people to be around them to help them carry the city forward.
And I've heard you ask most of the candidates, like, are you excited about who you're going to staff? Like, who's going to be your team? Have you already been thinking about who your team is, right? So the value of teamwork and the value of the staff, I think that's just going to play a critical role, right? So when you're thinking of platforms, right, which are important, right? But like, how well are you at staffing? How well are you putting people around you that are going to challenge you and give you good counsel, right? Be effective, right? So you see a value in it.
I'm very team oriented. I joke around and tell people that arguably I'm the best basketball player you've ever seen. But I believe in team. I believe you're only as good as the people around you, and so that's something that is to be determined.
Truly
depends on. I think that I don't have a vote in this. I do a lot of business in the city, and so I'm committed to this coverage because it contributes to our life. I do think that just based on experience, and again, this isn't. I'm very objective, but I think that based on experience, Danny Avula has, in his skill set, in his work history, being a human service professional, him obviously working, he was the commissioner. I think I see that his experience can correlate to that team building. But
so you see the mayor being, which is what they are, an executive role.
Yes.
This is not just a figurehead role. They're the mayor.
Right? They have their own administrative
officer. The CEO of the city in a way. So when you're thinking of who's going to be able to handle the budget, who's going to be able to help make sure that team morale is up, who's going to be a visionary, right? Who's going to be able to speak positively and effectively to people.
And have backbone.
And this is my thing. And one of my questions is, and I'm interested in your perspective on this because you've interviewed 4 out of the 5.
We have Maurice coming on. I don't know at what point this will be aired, but Maurice will be on this upcoming week as well.
Got you.
And get them all.
One of them.
I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be intentional in saying this. We're not leaving them out.
Got you.
He's been left out of some of the questions.
Yeah.
And I would be dismissed if I did not get that conversation. I have been public and having a perspective on wondering why he's not stepped out. I've said that, but I talked to him. And I respect anyone who chooses to do whatever they choose to do. And so I'm definitely interviewing him.
I've had numerous conversations with him. Like the guy. I think he is smart, definitely has a heart for the city. Like Maurice. Question is for you, the ability to what I look for in a candidate, right, is who is going to be able to do well under criticism and best under pressure. I know that's a wild, weird, maybe a kind of off right thing to really look for. Off of that, right, one, who do you think would be able to because as mayor in the city of Richmond, you're going to get criticism. You're going to get hit for anything, right? No matter what you do, and that's at any level, city council, school board. Who out of those do you think, just from speaking to them, of like, they probably would do the best under the heat of just being Richmond's mayor?
I think that the answer I'm going to give on that is this: is that I think we don't know. We really don't know. But what we can do is that we need to look at. For the most part, and we can look at Danny, we can look at Michelle, we can look at Andreas, we can look at Harrison from the standpoint of his financial background. And what we have to say is, how have they handled pressure?
Yeah.
And for some of them, it's more documented than others, but some of them have shown success in more areas than none, in others, in their ability to sustain and deal with pressure. And so that would be that's my way of how we should look at, how we should project the future, is really at looking back at the past and seeing how well did Andreas handle his time as a city council representative? How well did Michelle handle her time as president of city council? How did Danny Avula handle, the COVID czar, and when you look at those experiences, you weigh them out and you can kind of go from there to predict how well they're going to handle the pressure. When Randy Wilson, or Mike King or yourself has them on a show, or not only that, like when the city has them at a,
Truly, that's
standing in front of City Hall and threatening,
or there's an emergency. You know what I'm saying? There's something going on and you have to answer for it. You are the one person, the one voice that no matter who did it, how it happened, when it happened, they're looking to you.
That's the true example of being for the culture, or for the city and from the city. For real.
And that's what I look for. And so I think that that's one of the things that when I'm looking at leaders, like I'm kind of in that span. Right? So for you, getting an opportunity to sit when you're listening to them, right? Because I spoke to you offline. It's like 90% of your interviews are just being a listener. Back to your mental health background, right? What is it?
Particularly with politicians. Now, like
okay. In those cases,
in this space, because I'm not really into it to be controversial. Now, if I'm talking to, if I'm talking to
a music artist
or something, I may push back on some things. But at the end of the day, I want to forge relationships that allow us to continue to have further conversations and possibly do business. So I'm not going to get up there and be too controversial with them, but I will push back on things. I asked Danny a tough question. I thought it was a tough question. I said, there are people out there that are wondering like why you would take a job making $125,000 after having such a successful career, making who knows how much money, right? People may think that there's another, it's a stepping stone. He answered it greatly though. He answered it greatly. But again, like I might push certain things like that. Why? Because that's the questions that the people want.
Truly.
Those are those questions. I survey the people and how I ask my questions.
And when you are interviewing, and I do want to actually give you an opportunity to again shout out the podcast one more time. Please.
Oh yeah, sure. Randy Wilson Podcast. You can learn more at randywilsonpodcast.com. And the podcast is pretty much aired everywhere podcasts are played except SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Apple, all those places.
Just a couple more questions for you, brother. I just want to first and foremost thank you for being here.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Yes, sir.
When you are interviewing people, and there are a lot of people, young kids for sure. I go to a lot of different high schools or middle schools, or even when I'm guest instructing at Virginia State this year, and a lot of them have a media aspiration. Like, hey, I want to have my own show. I want to be able to do this, right? When they look at you and you're like doing all these different, from artists to politicians or whatever the case may be, what advice would you give that next generation? We in a time where all you gotta do really is put a phone in front of yourself and you can just talk to the world or talk to those that you gravitate to. But, one of the things that I've not been as intentional about, that I really plan to be more intentional about, that I can give as good of advice as maybe a Mike King, for example, is but like identify people who see your value and worth. Truly.
And know how to, and then build those relationships. Because when those folks are willing to invest in you.
Oh, I love that.
And you're already invested into the product of what you do, putting that together can really.
Well, I love that your first thought was to go to more of the offline relationships.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Show. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of attention be put like, what's the lighting I need? What should be the backdrop be?
Everything's about
important.
Everything's about relationships. I mean, if you look at, the one thing that I'm hoping is if there's like a big media platform out there that may see the skills in me, whether they would want to put money behind my show or put money into me, right? The one thing I would hope that they see outside of just how I convey a conversation is that I have an ability and knack to go and connect with people.
True.
I have an ability to have a conversation with a diverse audience. I have an ability to be resourceful in knowing how to get a guest on my show. I don't have a team. It's just me, for the most part. I have a couple people to help, but at the end of the day, and so I think that if you're going to be a solopreneur or entrepreneur and you want to create some type of medium space in digitally, getting your name out and your word out, you're going to have to invest in yourself. You're going to have confidence.
Truly.
You're going to have communication skills.
Yeah.
You're going to have to know that your presentation matters and what you look like and how you show up is important.
Yeah.
And if you put those things together, you should be able to walk out the house and every day make forward steps toward achieving what it is you're trying to accomplish.
The reason why I wanted to ask you that, man, because I really do feel as if you should be in more high schools, more middle schools, being able to talk to kids, being able to talk to that next generation, man, and being able to inspire them, because a lot of their aspirations are front of camera things. But then there are some who have maybe behind the camera aspirations as well, but just don't know how to go about it. And you mentioned that keyword, relationships.
I'm going to share with you a real cool moment that happened the other day. And I know we're probably running up on time. You said you was going to guest lecture down at Virginia State.
Yes.
So you probably know Jonathan Young.
Yes.
So Jonathan Young was doing one of his classes the other day, and he sent me an email. This was like just a cool situation. He said, "Hey man, there's a young lady in my class that's doing phenomenal work, and it's someone I think you should know." And I asked her if she was familiar with your podcast, and she said, "Yeah, I'm familiar with his podcast. My dad's been on the show."
Come on.
And he said, "Oh," and he's like, her name is Aaliyah Battle, and her dad is obviously the heavy hitter DJ Lonnie B.
Got you.
So I'm sitting there and saying that's a real. It's like a small world. Like I don't know if Jonathan Young realized. I mean, he probably knows who the heavy hitter is.
Sure.
But in the moment, I don't know if he realized he has a daughter that's a heavy hitter also.
Come on. Yeah.
Her name is pretty much more established than everybody's. You know, so it's a pretty cool, like surreal situation.
Truly.
So yeah.
And again, for the culture.
From the culture, for sure.
Brother, this has been a privilege. I wish I had more time, and I actually hope to have you on again after the election, because what I want to do is be able to speak with you after it's all said and done, and be able to say, like, man, hey, after all those conversations passed, this is how the city ended up responding, right? Because you're doing great work with giving the city a proper opportunity to see what's in front of them.
Well, thank you,
a lot of people have different jobs, businesses, they have kids, they're doing a lot of things, right? So maybe they don't get a lot of time to really vet these candidates. So the importance of the work that you are doing is you're giving it to them in a way where they really can understand it, where they can actually consume it, and then they also can be like, wow, this is actually given to me in an unfiltered manner. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing, not only for the people that you're having on your show, but the city at large.
Vice versa. You're more than welcome to come on my show as well.
Man,
so we just link up schedules.
Appreciate you. And again, give you one more opportunity to give them opportunity to follow you on all your platforms.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'm just going to say this disclaimer real quick. I was eating some sausage this morning, pause, and the grease burnt my lips, so I'm very self-conscious of the dryness. But Randy Wilson Podcast, you can find the podcast everywhere podcasts are played for the most part, except SoundCloud. Take that issue up with them. I don't know. They don't seem to want to distribute it. But you can also go to randywilsonpodcast.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Randy Wilson Podcast. Everywhere, Randy Wilson Podcast.
Got you. And again, Phillip Noel, host of the Strategy Meets Impact Show. We definitely want to thank Mike King for being able to help partner making this show happen. Thank you for Eve behind on the boards, that giving us this incredible shots that we have. Follow me at McCoy Bennett Marketing on Instagram, as well as Mr._Noel. Appreciate you all, and be able to talk to you again soon.